I haven't played basketball in so long, and I'm so passionate, and I love the game, and I don't do it for any other reason except for to compete.
Jimmy Butler just exposed the NBA's problem. Son of Houston, Texas, while currently playing for the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler, number 22, has got a story to tell with basketball insight only a top-notch NBA star could have. It seems that there are some discrepancies when it comes to players in the regular season compared to the playoffs. So in this video, we'll let Jimmy Butler expose this NBA problem. As we get to the meat and potatoes, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, ring the notification bell, then share this video. We all know that the Lakers claimed victory again, and LeBron James took the Finals MVP. But let's not neglect the man on the other side of the court. Jimmy Butler had a historic NBA Finals and at times matched LeBron in each statistic. This was LeBron's 10th Finals, and he was already a 3-time champion. Jimmy, on the other hand, just grabbed his first Finals ever. It was his first time to take the conference finals. The odd part is why he's being underrated and not celebrated for his achievements. He averaged 26.2 points, 9.8 assists, 8.3 rebounds, and 2.2 steals on 55% from the field. He led his team in every category, from points, assists, rebounds, steals, and even blocks. He pretty much did what LeBron did. In fact, it is bona fide. He did do exactly what LeBron did. He was the third player in NBA history to have a 40-point triple-double in the finals. The only two other players were LeBron in 2015 and Jerry West way back in 1969. Aside from the stat filing, remember that Butler led his team to wins. He took over in the fourth quarter in the clutch moments. His performance and drive are absolutely amazing, but there's a serious dilemma that should be analyzed. And as we've mentioned earlier, there's an inconsistency. Heading into the playoffs, most people weren't expecting Jimmy Butler to have the playoffs he did, and it made sense. Of course, we thought his level would rise, but from what he had shown in the regular season, it was almost unpredictable to know how much his performance level could actually increase. Butler wasn't on the level of superstars. He was just a really good player that put in a lot of hustle. He was truly an all-star. In the regular season, Butler averaged 19.9 points, 6 assists, and 6.7 rebounds on 45% from the field and 24.5% from 3. Although Butler played way more minutes in the finals, he was more efficient and had a higher PER. And it's not like he barely played minutes in the regular season. He averaged 33.8 minutes per game. Yet even with these outstanding solid stats, he wasn't outstanding. The story for the Heat was Bam Adebayo, which had significantly improved. And here lies the awkward trend that has been popping up its oddness more often in the past few years. The difference between the regular season and playoffs. Jimmy Butler definitely deserves more attention. If we could jog your memory, there was a time where the regular season was just a formality, when the whole world pretty much knew that it was going to be the Warriors and Cavs in the finals. The regular season began to lose meaning. There was also this whole load management wave going on, which meant stars were already giving less importance to the regular season. We even started to coin names for players who performed specifically in the playoffs. Playoff Rondo, which if you look at the stats, is a real thing. Then we came across Playoff Kawhi, who would arguably turn into the best player in the world in the playoffs after being somewhat a superstar in the regular season. Think back as we even had Playoff LeBron. The whole idea of him coasting in the regular season was for him to play smart and save himself for the playoffs. If you think about it, it all makes sense now. Players should elevate themselves in the toughest of moments or at least maintain their performance level during the playoffs. Regarding another player who is already strategically ahead of the game, Jamal Murray went to another level in these playoffs with his amazing shooting moments. And now we have Jimmy Butler. Here's a guy who legit didn't average 20 points a game this season or last season. A guy that was written off as a locker room problem despite helping every single franchise he was a part of. The thing about Butler is that he really could perform like that in the regular season, since it wasn't about knockdown shooting with no one to really stop him. So what's going on with Jimmy Butler? What's his angle? In his regular season, he chooses not to show his full capabilities. In the playoffs, he performs spectacularly, even if it's only for a short period of time. And if he isn't showing his full abilities in the regular season, what does that say about the NBA season? If he and other NBA players are using the same strategies, where do we draw the line between playing the game and being smart or playing the game by actually cheating the game? Remember, in the Olympics of 2012, South Korean, Indonesian, and Chinese badminton teams were intentionally losing just to set themselves up against the weaker team so they could actually have the advantage to get the championship. They were found guilty of not using best efforts and penalized for conducting themselves in a manner that was dishonest to the sport. Have NBA players been cheating the game? In the case of Jimmy, if he would have played like he did in the playoffs, he would be a superstar. We saw Butler also lose his legs by the end of the series, so maybe that could be an issue. But that wouldn't explain players like Rondo, who is not necessarily carrying a team. Nor seems like he's tired by what he does in the playoffs. Now, let's take a look at the opposite side of the spectrum, where we have players that do well in the regular season, but fall short in the playoffs. This makes more sense, because defense tightens up in the playoffs and the main go-tos get taken away. In one notable case, we have players like Giannis, who dominates in the regular season, but fails to replicate in the playoffs. Paul George was third in MVP voting in 2019, yet he has horrible games. This year, he looked like Pandemic P instead of PG-13. Just look at the stats comparison. Russell Westbrook has put up some tremendous historical stats in the regular season. As a matter of fact, at times he can shoot his team out of the game. Yet he also fails to do the same in the playoffs. So what does this indicate? We know that playoff basketball is different, but regular season just doesn't mean as much to the players. We award accolades based on the regular season, first team All-NBA, first team All-Defense. These are what we measure players' legacies, but it lacks context. For most basketball fans, they feel that the regular season is a prelude to the playoffs. And that is how some players feel about the game, while it seems others might not. So the question remains, what's the solution? It's not as if you can fine players for not playing their best. How can you effectively judge that? And so these questions and facts lead us to the main point of this video. Jimmy Butler proved the entire NBA wrong. He was the last straw of sorts. There are players who are capable of performing right now, who are in their prime right now, but choose to wait it out for the playoffs. And so, the fans lose, the game loses. There's a difference between coasting since you're winning and literally just choosing not to play, which could lead to some more losses. The Warriors with KD would coast, but they were just too dominant. They got in the right form at the right time, but even their stars weren't slacking. There's a difference between resting because you're an older player or in your prime, healthy, and still resting. There's also the flip side, where players take it too easy in the regular season and never find it in the playoffs like the Clippers this year. Honestly, we should have awards for the playoffs besides Finals MVP, because playoff basketball is a whole different sport. Players like Jimmy Butler make us reevaluate the value of players that we have and the value of the regular season. We must make sure we maintain the integrity of the game. What other discrepancies have you noticed between the regular season, playoffs, and finals, and the stars who play in them? Be sure to leave your comments down below. We love to hear what you have to say about maintaining the integrity of the NBA. And also, be sure to give a thumbs up, subscribe, ring the notification bell, then share this video with your fellow players who also have a Basketball Jones.